Oscar may still win it in a lot of other areas, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. It's not going to be Oscar just running away with this, you know. But it's been one race, and a week ago we said Lando was out. So let's maybe give it a couple more weeks, but it's a good step in the right direction. Well, the good news though is we do have a title fight. It's just not seemingly doesn't look like it's going to be including any other teams other than McLaren now. The good news
finally
is that it does.
Finally, I've thrown the towel in when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I still don't want to absolutely count out Max, but
I'm counting him out now. We'll talk about that a bit later, but for now at least, it's
the two McLarens, right? The good news is that this front wing update does seem to, as you said, balance the car out a bit more, and it seems like Lando is immediately becoming a little bit more comfortable in the car. Yeah. So I think there's a good chance we will actually get like an Oscar Lando fight throughout the year, which this season is like last season in some ways, where it's like every single weekend we're jumping from, well, that's it, it's over, to, oh, you know what, this might be back on. It's like every single weekend.
Yeah, but I have a slightly different theory when it comes to that. I think what this weekend showed was that even on an off weekend, Oscar is still going to hassle Lando like anything.
Yeah.
While Lando's off weekends are worse.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something to that, because, okay, first of all, why Lando apparently made that giant leap, because frankly, what he did in qualifying was next level.
Yeah, because even without the yellow flag, he was still miles ahead of everybody.
Already on pole, and his first lap was good enough for pole.
Yeah.
His second lap was 0.3 quicker than his first lap, which is stunning. Just something that I think just something that we expected from him from the start of the season, but this is
the Lando that I expected to see this season straight away. Yeah.
And that's what we saw. And according to both McLaren and Lando to a certain extent, they brought a new front wing upgrade or a modification in Canada.
Yeah.
It seemed it was specifically for Lando. What they've said is that it was to give drivers a bit more feel at the front.
Yeah.
And Oscar ditched it. Oscar did not like it. He didn't like the feel of it.
Yeah.
Lando went with it, and we didn't really get to see much of it in Canada in terms of how he would do in qualifying. Here he was pretty much a man on a mission, and was it, again, we still need to see a few races, because we don't know a couple of things. First, was it because of Austria, because Lando is brilliant in Austria?
Yeah.
Or was it because maybe Oscar had a bad day in qualifying and just couldn't really hook things up?
So, I don't know though, like his confidence in the car though, even that's what gives me a lot of like hope that maybe he can stick in this fight, because the main reason is not even the pace, because to be honest, like the pace is kind of like, this is what Lando should have been fucking doing from the start anyway, pace wise. Like this is what we know he's capable of. Where I was getting a bit antsy was when Oscar was putting pressure on him into the corners. The main thing where Oscar I've seen has been like way better than Lando is Oscar has complete confidence in the car almost. Like it's still tricky for him at points. You can see like the rear end sliding, braking points, different things from both drivers. And Oscar's just been more comfortable with it. But like when Oscar was doing lunges to try and like take Lando was braking late to hold him off and still making the corner perfectly. And that tells me that like that was the main issue Lando was having. He was having to be told, watch the braking markers. Like, you know, basically his normal feel for braking was off. So he was having to be told, like, watch the markers, you know, that kind of shit. So I think clearly this means he's actually got confidence now that when he brakes and turns, it's going to do what he expects. And I think that's a big thing. Like, you know, as soon as a driver has to think in a car, it's almost game over. Like, you just can't drive. Every Red Bull driver has basically said that's their biggest issue in Red Bull recently, is that like, I need to think the entire time while driving, so I'm immediately slow. And if Lando is at a point now where he's actually just able to drive as he wants to drive without having to think, then it should be game on. And it's not the pace that has that idea in my head. It is just, he looked confident in the braking zones which means he seems to be kind of confident that, okay, the car is going to do what I want. And if that is the case, then Oscar may still win it in a lot of other areas, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. It's not going to be Oscar just running away with this, But it's been one race, and a week ago we said Lando was out. So let's maybe give it a couple more weeks. But it's a good step in the right direction,
Yeah. Yeah, first let's talk from Lando's perspective, because I think it's important that he had a lot of questions when he came into this weekend, isn't he? Because it's not only us writing him off, it's almost
everyone.
It was
and him.
And I think almost you can say that, look, Lando has his detractors. They are a different breed, but even when it came to his supporters, as Peter said last time around, that a lot of his supporters all said that, yeah, this is it. We are jumping off the wagon. And this, what he did this weekend is something you expect. You expect from someone like Lewis Hamilton, Vettel, Alonso, all these guys, where they have a bad weekend, where they have a tremendous low, and then they bounce back from it and just dominate next time around. I won't say he dominated this weekend, but he bounced back. This is a bit of a statement where he could have had another bad weekend, another weekend similar to what he had in China, or a lot of others, where he fucks up qualifying, then basically makes up for it in the race and finishes P2 behind Oscar, who's just managing things at the front. Yeah, that is not the case. He put basically what it was, a statement pole position, a half a second over almost everyone else. Now that puts you in a strong place. For me, however, the biggest test was when it came to the wheel-to-wheel battle, because Oscar was not relenting at any point in time. No. And even when Oscar jumped him, when he overtook him into turn 3, Lando basically just braked a bit earlier and used used better traction to just, at that very moment, he made the judgment and made the call that he was going to be on the inside, and he had the DRS, and he just used it to basically keep the position.
Even his car placement at various points, like, you notice straight away, it was genuinely impressive, because like when Oscar was behind him, he never kind of did what a lot of times he would do, which is like defend free air, and then Oscar gets like a lunge somewhere. But then when he knew that Oscar was close enough that Oscar could make a dive, he started covering the inside perfectly as well. And, knowing that if Oscar gets a chance to go on the inside, he will. And the only time really that Oscar got a chance to was when Oscar lunged really late and almost took the two of them out. And
you could if that had happened, I mean, if both of them had a double DNF, just imagine. Well, first of all, it would have been a Ferrari 1-2, which would have been epic.
Insane, yeah. George Russell on the podium again, which just ridiculous. George Russell
would have been on the podium, yeah. And who would have been P3?
George would
have been P3.
George would have been P3, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, that's still a shocker.
But like,
in that case, even that's basically top 3 drivers in the championship all going out having a DNF.
Well, that moment though is what I think, if you go back the whole way, kind of ruined Oscar's race basically, because he essentially had a flat spot after that, and he couldn't do any pace to kind of make up for the undercut then, so that was just that then basically.
But he still came back.
Yeah, he did. But I think like if he hadn't have had that flat spot in that lap.
But were you surprised with the way? First of all, one thing that became very clear is that both the garages are working independently here.
Yeah,
which is very weird.
I have to say,
even Mercedes did not have that. If you
no,
remember.
And you know what? I have to say, like, the fact that we may only get a 2-horse race during this, I really like the fact that they've basically gone like, and we saw, we've seen glimpses of this, right? The fact that the two sides are actually working fully, against each other, which is just, it's a cool setup to go through. We saw this a couple of weeks ago when it was like, in Canada, wasn't it? When William Joseph came over and was like, get him now, like put him under pressure now. And it's just strange.
For the taking,
yeah, it's strange to hear that intra-team battle, but it is cool that they're kind of going, no, look, we're clear of the constructors now. So you guys work with your teams and all bets are off, and the pit wall is kind of going to just come in, the pit wall being the head guys at McLaren. Stella and Zach Brown and those guys basically coming in and saying, look, happy for you to fight, but like, what was it? They were like, Piastri, don't make that move again. Like, that's too far.
That's going over the limit.
Which is a fair, everyone, like, I think it was, I was Jolyon Palmer and Coulthard again on F1 Live were like, oh, I don't like that. You can't come on and tell him not to. And I was like, you kind of can though, because that's not like an aggressive move. That's just you almost took both cars out. You know, don't, mistake. So it's like, look,
desperation.
Calm down a bit.
I think, but I also understand what David and Jolyon were saying. Cause
I do, but I think
the timing was wrong, isn't it? Because there's already a 3 or so second gap between the two, and the whole thing is basically in the past. Why pick it up right now? Because and not wait until both of them are going wheel to wheel again. Yeah, just to be on the safe side.
It's a fair point. But I think I can see where McLaren's coming from there too, where it's basically like, look, you know, happy for you to race, but just don't hit each other, you know, because
it does seem like it, right? That there's a hierarchy that they've created where driver and his race engineer, they are independent to do anything that they want. Yeah. But then there's this, the person at the top, which is basically the Stella or whoever is in the top management. What he's doing is he's making sure that they don't go over the limit. Yeah, which is fine. Which I understand. It's not a.
I think as well. There's probably very few drivers you could do this with, though. Like very few top tier drivers you could do this with, because like if you had a clear number 1 and number 2, you can't really do it anyway because you're constantly going.
There's no point.
You know, there's no point in that situation. But like if you had a Max and Lando in there, like like Jos and Max are in
teammates.
There. Yeah. Or, sorry, if you had Lando and Max together as teammates in this situation, Lando or Max and Jos are pulling like people over. They're complaining about it the whole time. It's not working.
Max is not going to listen to the team's wishes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And Max, more so Jos as well is going to be in there.
These guys are world champions, and once you become that, you have a certain level of authority.
And that's a good point that you've just made. Like, will they be able to do this if one of those drivers is a world champion next year? You know?
Yeah, because that is a very important question.
Yeah.
If we are talking about Mercedes, I think we'll get to that bit later, because first, I think there's one thing I really wanted to touch on, because I was super impressed by Oscar.
Is it his team radio at the end? No.
Oh, that was funny. What was it? I don't remember.
He said Alpine are still managing to fuck me after 3 years.
Fuck me over after so many.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Like,
and
really good.
What was Franco Colapinto doing? I have no idea. I think he didn't see the mirror.
He clearly didn't. I think he was he clearly didn't, whatever way it was. I'm guessing he was so focused on Tsunoda because the two of them were having a bit of a crazy one.
I think what happened is the blue flags were for Yuki.
Yeah.
Because I think Yuki was behind, if I'm not wrong. And Colapinto did not know that there was a car that was going to lap them. Maybe that's the misjudgment that happened.
But he definitely, there's no way he was,
there wasn't a red mist moment.
There's no way he was trying to force Oscar onto the grass. Like, there's just, he was clearly following. Yeah, he was clearly focused on following Tsunoda through. And I'd say just it was a stupid move, and I'm glad he got a penalty for it because it's deserved. Like, even as a
very lenient, by the way, very lenient.
I need to read the document because, as we know now, the menu of items
go through it and let me know what it, because I
assume it's 10-second minimum.
By the way, that's why I sent it to you, because I know you are going to go through it.
Oh, I'm going to
spend the cliff notes. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to become like basically a steward, because I love that shit. It's really entertaining. But from what I could see of a brief glance of it the other day, it's 10 seconds unless there's mitigating circumstances. So I would imagine that there's some mitigating circumstance where they've seen like the actual helmet cam.
But pushing the driver off, I think it's 5 seconds. The first offense is 5 seconds.
Maybe
one penalty point. I think I read this one because I asked a writer to cover it. I think it's basically that this is in the FIA doc, the first infringement of pushing a driver off is this. Yeah. I think it should have been more, because he did it to the race leader. That's zero sense of awareness. But anyway, leaving the Alpine aside, why I love what Oscar did this weekend is First of all, my initial impression after Lando he dominated everyone in qualifying on Saturday was, I think we are looking at a repeat of Zandvoort in Singapore last season, where he just drove off and there was no one that was going to come near him. The race was entirely different.
Yeah.
The race was entirely different because I think it's safe to say that Oscar was the faster driver.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a controversial opinion in any
during the race, definitely not. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And the fact, and not only that, the way he approached it, because I'll ask you, if the roles are reversed and you have Oscar leading and Lando behind him, would you see Lando being this belligerent behind Oscar from lap 1 until the end of the first stint?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He showed championship mettle there, and I don't think it is something that it's these little things, right? Where when it comes to doing something on these lines, and maybe to a certain extent having the wherewithal to not have a meltdown and something like something similar to what happened to him by Colapinto actually occurs. And it's good. It's good. I think when it comes to the overall package, Oscar is slowly becoming one. And the fact that he was actually faster than Lando here, I think I'd still say advantage Oscar, but it's gotten a bit closer this time around.
I mean, I think the fact that Oscar still made that step over the winter and where he is now, and the fact that he's able to, the main thing for me was as well, to be honest, it's just everything about his race pace management too, because normally during the end of a stint, Lando is faster, and that's just been a constant. Even this season, when Lando's been the slower driver, the final parts of a stint, Lando is just genuinely quicker every single time. Even in Miami, for example, when Oscar was up the road, same thing. So I think the fact that Oscar was quicker at the final part of the stint, another just sign of just Oscar has just made this big step up, but I think it is just a big step up.
Big jump.
Yeah. You gotta say, for Lando, you gotta think about it in terms of very unfortunate for him, no? Just of all seasons, this is the one where Oscar makes the jump, Lando must have been thinking
basically keeping him under his boot for 2 years and dominating him, and then
but also
as soon as the car comes in,
how long Lando has sat in a midfield car waiting for this to happen, and then finally gets there, and he hasn't got Daniel Ricciardo in 7th. He's got a teammate who's just as fast as him. It's awkward. Yeah,
there are other drivers that would be thinking this way, right? People another young British talent, because George is also. I think he'll be sitting there and I think after Canada, he got a reality check where Toto didn't bring the contract and said, sign it. So, yeah.
Which we'll talk about. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. One thing I actually wanted to ask about Lando's strategy. Do you think as soon as Oscar had that flat spot, Lando should have continued with the first stint?
No, I think it was a good idea to stop there.
Tell me why.
Because the undercut was working around here, I think.
Yeah, but what undercut did is it gave Oscar a clean slate of sorts. Because if in those next 2 to 3 laps where Lando would have taken the advantage of the fact that Oscar had a flat spot and basically pulled out a couple of seconds of lead and then pitted, then you have an entirely different race where maybe Oscar could never reach him.
Yeah, maybe.
I just feel that maybe they could have taken the advantage of the fact that Oscar was compromised on the set of tires that he had.
I think they probably just knew that, okay, he's flat spotted his tires, so he's coming in this lap or next lap, he's not happy because he was complaining over the radio.
Do you think they'll allow Oscar to have the undercut over Lando?
No, and that's my point though. I think that his engineers knew, if we don't come in this lap, Oscar's coming in this lap because he's complaining over the radio. So I think Oscar would have been like, I'm coming in. So I think Will Joseph and that side of the garage knew, he's coming in, so it's safer for us to basically force him to stay out for at least another lap on tires he's complaining about. So, and then as soon as they come in, regardless, you're triggering it. It's so. I think it was the pragmatic move. Why the only the only unsafe thing would be like if a safety car came out that lap or something, they would have been screwed. But sure, you can't plan for that anyway.
Yeah,
so.
But it was fine. I think overall